All right, so in front of you, 2-3A, we're going to move on to deductive reasoning. First of all, it starts off by saying with inductive reasoning, you use examples to make a conjecture. With deductive reasoning, you have to use facts, definitions, properties to draw conclusions and prove that conjectures are true. So inductive reasoning would be like, there's no like proof or theory that something is true, but you're just kind of you're observing some things and noticing that there seems to be a pattern. So for example, let's say that you have really bad grades, and I look at your report card and say, you know what, he has a D in this class and an E in this class, and he's getting a C- in strength and conditioning, and he's failing math, and and he doesn't, he's not reading in language arts and blah blah blah. So my assumption would be is that you've kind of checked out. I don't have proof that that's true, but observation shows me that you have done that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That would be what we would call inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning means you draw conclusions based on facts, and you know that this is true. Like, for example, I know that you are not doing well in class because now not only have I looked at your grades, but I have looked at a printout of all of your assignments, and I have seen that you've done nothing. So now I have proof that you are checked out because you haven't done anything. So that would be deductive reasoning. So one form of deductive reasoning is this thing called the law of detachment. So go ahead and put a box or a star or something around law of detachment. Law of detachment right here. If P, arrow Q, you see the arrow there? If P, arrow Q is true, and P is true, then Q is also true. And it's also written up here in the explanation. What I would like you guys to do right here is write this down. P arrow Q means P implies Q, and what it really means is if P is true, then we know that Q is true also. So that arrow in between the P and the Q means if P, then Q. Hey Kyle, welcome to 4th hour. If P, then Q. All right, so the law of detachment says this. If you have a statement like this, if P implies Q, and you know that the P part is true, then you can assume then that the Q part is true also. But you may not assume it backwards. So if you have a statement, if P is true, then Q is true, and then you have some facts that tell you that Q is true, you may not assume then that P is true. And some of you are going, I have no idea what she just said to me, and I'm going to show you in a minute, and hopefully the light bulb will go on. So here we go. Tom. You guys know Tom, right?
No.
Tom knows that if he misses the practice, the day before a game, then he will not be a starting player in the game. So Tom knows that if he misses the practice the day before a game, that's the P. That's the P part. Then he will not be a starting player in the game. What's that? That's the Q. So I am telling you that this statement right here is a true fact. If he misses practice the day before a game, he's not going to start the next day. Does that make sense? That is a fact. You assume it. You know it. All right. Keep going. Tom misses practice on Tuesday. So I am telling you, what is this called, you guys? This P or Q right here. Tom misses his practice on Tuesday. What do we call that? That's the P. This is the P part right here. Well, I have told you that if P is true, then Q is true. So if Tom misses practice on Tuesday, what does that mean to him? He is not going to be able to start the game on Wednesday. That's what the law of detachment tells you, is that if you have a statement, if you know that P implies Q, and then you get the P part, where Tom misses practice on Tuesday, then the Q part can be assumed to be true. You can assume that the Q part is true. He is not going to start the next day. All right, the next part. of syllogism. The law of syllogism. It's another way to make a valid conclusion using deductive reasoning. All right, so here we go. Given, oh, let me back up here. It says, if P implies Q is true, and Q implies R, in other words, we have another situation going on here. We don't just have P and Q anymore. Now we have P and Q and R. Then P implies R is also true. So P implies Q. Q implies R means that P implies R. What really just happened here? What happened to the Q's?
You messed with our letters.
What did I do?
Oh, the Q's turned into R's.
Well, the Q's just kind of disappear.
Yeah.
So if P implies Q, but then Q implies something else, that means that the first condition implies the last condition. Okay? So, determine, okay, wait, we have a situation. If you have a horse, what do we call this?
A horse?
You have a horse. You call it a horse. We call it P, yes. Then you have to feed it. What do you call that part? You have to feed it. What do we call it? We call this part right here Q. This is the Q part. Then it goes on to say if you have to feed a horse, which we've already called P.
Q. E-R.
R. This part right here, you have to feed a horse. We call that Q. It says right up here. For the Q part, then you have to feed it. So if you have to feed a horse, that's Q. What does that imply? R. You have to get up early every morning, which is what we call R. So we have this situation going on. We have a P implies Q, a Q implies R, therefore P implies R.
Doesn't that mean
All
all
right,
of it
so
is
the
R?
conclusion is that if you have a horse, which is what?
Then you have to get up early to feed it.
Then you have to get up early every morning. That's the R. So in other words, P, after all that, P implies
R.
that R is true. So using one of those two laws, the law of detachment or the law of syllogism, you have to decide which law is used here for number one. If Jim is a Texan, then he is an American. This is P, this is Q. What is Jim as a Texan?
P.
That's P. Well, if P implies Q and then you get another P, what does that imply? What do you know about Jim right now? He's a Texan, which means he's a what?
American.
He's an American. So your job right now is to determine if a valid conclusion can be reached from the two statements using the law of detachment or law of syllogism. If a valid conclusion is possible, state it and the law that is used. If a valid conclusion does not follow, write no valid conclusion. So you need to say, is there a valid conclusion?
No. Yes.
Yes, it is valid. What law did we use? Did we use the law of syllogism? Is there a P, a Q, and an R in this situation? No, there is only a P and a Q, which is called the law of detachment. What a strange name, law of detachment. And what can we conclude about Jim?
He is American.
Jim is an American. I like number two. We have to talk about number two.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. If Spot, it says that if Spot is a dog, then he has 4 legs. Okay? So, what is this part called? What is Spot is a dog? What is that?
P.
That's P. What is this?
Q.
He has 4 legs. That's Q. What do they give us here? What is this?
Spot has
Spot has 4.
one leg.
He has 4 legs. What is that? A P or a Q?
Q.
This
Q.
is it's not an R. It's a Q because right here we said, he has 4 legs.
Oh.
He has 4 legs. Spot has 4 legs. That's Q. What conclusion can we draw?
No.
So what do we write? We can't draw a conclusion. Why can we not draw a conclusion?
The Q can be
The Q's don't turn P.
The Q does not determine the P. It is the P that determines the Q.
So it's a
So what are you going to write?
no valid.
No valid conclusion. Now, I like to use this example because this one always gets a little bit confusing for students when, obviously, if Spot has 4 legs, when they said right above that if he's a dog, he has 4 legs, well, obviously Spot's a dog. But the example that I like to use is this. I'm going to write it down, and it has nothing to do with any of this, but I still want it to show up in video. So I'm just going to write it right here in the middle. If it is Saturday, then I will wear red shoes. I'm telling you this is true. If it's Saturday, I'm going to wear my red shoes. All right? Let's say it's Saturday. What do you guys know? I'm going to wear my red shoes. And I just told you that if it's Saturday, I'm going to wear my red shoes. But let's say now that I am wearing my red shoes. What do you know?
Saturday.
Do you?
Be Saturday.
No.
What happens if I wear my red shoes on Tuesday?
It's one of the 7 days of the week.
I am just telling you that if it's a Saturday, I promise you that I will be wearing my red shoes. That doesn't mean I won't wear them another day of the week, but on Saturday, I will wear my red shoes. Right, Danny? Do you like my red shoes?
Oh my god.
Black.
When I was little,
Black.
You all wear red shoes. I'm not wearing red shoes today.
when I was little, I loved the Dorothy shoes. That were
Oh,
on
yes.
And I used to wear them everywhere and with every outfit.
All right, so if it's Saturday, I'll wear my red shoes. It's Saturday. Today's Saturday, so I'm going to wear my red shoes. But just because I'm wearing my shoes does not mean that's implied backwards. It doesn't mean it's Saturday, because I might wear my red shoes. I really like my red shoes. In fact, I wear my red shoes multiple times a week, not just on Saturdays. Does that make sense, you guys? All right, so we cannot conclude anything. You can't conclude backwards. You can only conclude forward. All right, let's move on to, let's go on to Rachel. Rachel lives in Tampa. If Rachel lives in Tampa, what do we call this?
P.
P. Then Rachel lives in Florida. What do we call this?
Q.
Rachel lives in Florida. We call it Q. All right, next sentence says this. If Rachel lives in Florida, well, we already saw that statement. It's Q. Yep, so this is Q. Then Rachel lives in the United States. This part right here, what do we call it?
R.
It's new. It's, oh, we got to give it a different letter. It's new information, so it's an R. What statement can we gather from this then? Rachel lives in the U.S. Got to start with your P.
If Rachel lives in Tampa,
Florida.
Rachel lives in Tampa. Then what?
then she lives in.
Rachel lives in the United States. Can we come up with a valid conclusion, first of all?
If Rachel lives
Yeah,
in Tampa,
we can.
Florida.
So we got to write valid. What law are we using to come up with our valid conclusion? The law of syllogism. And then you have to write what you can conclude. So now I'm going to say if Rachel lives in Tampa, it's kind of a long one. If Rachel lives in Tampa, then Rachel, right, is this a true statement, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah. Unless there's another Tampa somewhere. Rachel lives in the United States. Number 4 is a little bit tricky too. If October 12th is a Monday, then October 13th is a Tuesday.
True.
This is P. This is Q. Right?
Yes.
Then I rewrite what?
P.
P.
This is P. So what do we know? We know Q. Valid conclusion? Yep, valid conclusion. What law? Law of detachment. And you can say then the conclusion that we can gather is that October 13 is a Tuesday. Now a minute ago I said this one's kind of tricky. I had forgotten that it showed up like this. In my last hour, I talked about what if I had said to you that October 13 is a Tuesday. So this part right here, October 13 is a Tuesday, what could we conclude?
October 12th.
Can we?
Yep.
P implies Q. Q does not imply P.
But this one does.
This one does not. Yes. Logically, of course, if Tuesday is October 13, then Monday is October 12th. But it doesn't tell us that. So you cannot assume it. So if it tells you Q, you can't assume that P is true. So if it had not said October 12 is Monday, if it had said October 13 is Tuesday, what would you have to write? No valid conclusion. Yep. All right. I am going to stop recording. Your job right now is to finish up